Welcome back, you here with Goldberg. Today I'll be talking about LBH, or loser back home. This concept, or really it's more of a label, applied to certain men in the West who will go overseas hoping to enhance or improve their plot in the dating market. I should note quickly that by modern standards with dating apps, Instagram, narcissism culture, most guys are going to be basically losers in the West. If you are average looking, you've got some money, but maybe you're not super tall, your face isn't great, you are going to struggle. And that has to be acknowledged. I'm not going to begrudge anyone who finds a workable solution, because I think this particular one is overall healthier and more rewarding if it's done correctly, as opposed to, say, being in the Happy Deal, institution. My sex doll's real. It loves me. I'm going to buy it clothes and cuddle, and it's going to be my girlfriend. Or alternatively, you got to learn game and get these Western women. If you're 2 out of 10, it's no problem. We know game is a bunch of gaslighting because guys at a certain height and looks are going to struggle immensely if they don't have money or status. Quickly, we'll talk about some of the less legitimate reasons for why LBH is a thing, and then the actual concept, like some real examples. So to begin, you're going to have some women in the West who will say stuff like, these guys are losers. And you say, oh, so you want to date them or marry them? Of course not, but they need to chase me. In other words, very high ego, they want more of an audience, they want orbiters, and they're angry because some dudes will be taken out of that mix, so they have to label them as losers. You can make with it what you want. The other is, there's going to be a little bit of a probably racial resentment, or at least economic resentment. This is typically a term applied to cream cheese guys, although they're not the only ones going overseas. It's well known, of course, that Turkish guys will go to Bulgaria or Poland or Ukraine because they can't get women back home, as one example. But in any case, there is maybe something of a perception in the United States that cream cheese guys have the resources to actually go overseas as opposed to just doing game. Now, that's not as valid though, because if you were like a second generation Indian or Asian, you probably, if your parents became lawyers or doctors or ran a business, you probably got enough resources to travel. So I don't think that explains it enough, but maybe it's the whole dynamic of the, fetishization of a cream cheese skin or whatever. I don't understand that. I think it's a lot of nonsense, but it does exist. So we can just lay that aside and then talk about really where LBH comes out, okay? So this is Matt Forney, and I think he's a perfect embodiment of what we talk about when we discuss concepts like LBH, okay? Overweight, bald cell, not terribly tall per se, active in promoting alt-right content, which if that's your thing, right? At the same time, he comes out with a book like this, How to Have Sex with Girls in the Philippines. And you're saying, come on, this guy, if he was in the United States, maybe he could do Richard Blooper Game. I think it's called, there's a book out there, haven't read it yet, it's called The Butt Plugged Alpha, so you could do that, maybe get a single mom. But this guy, realistically, if he's going overseas, it's the allure of a passport, or rather a green card, or it's money, right? Women are not finding this guy attractive. No offense to him, I'm just saying, we know how the black pill is brutal. And this is just something more broadly. I remember in ROK comments section, there was this other bald cell, like 50 years old, bragging about marrying some younger Chinese chick, and he was just like an ESL teacher. And they develop these egos that are just totally unrealistic. You say, dude, you are basically taking advantage, again, either of wanting the green card, or maybe they've got the, I want my kid to have a different tone, neither of which are exactly indications of you being really desired or a high value man, in the way that you probably want to be seen at least. So it is, worth a word of caution. There was also this black dude who commented on the channel in the past, not a Tyrone, more of a Clarence, and he kept bragging about this wife he had gotten from the Balkans. So I decided to kind of troll him a little bit, and it came out she had been sleeping around with probably 30 plus dudes, and he was excited to marry her and have kids. So if that's your thing, I'm not hating on you. I'm just saying you have to understand when you have that macro level view and you understand what's driving the reason why certain women are actually going for you, it can avoid some of the more disastrous pitfalls that will otherwise materialize if you have this, oh yeah, I just happen to be an alpha because I got a passport. That mentality is immensely dangerous for men. And you really have to consider not just your status, but also her status, okay? So if you just go to a foreign country like the Philippines or Vietnam, you're like, I'm just here to have fun, whatever. Yeah, you're relatively secure as long as you learn the exchange rates, you don't get ripped off, as long as you have a basic sense of where you're going to go, you don't take unnecessary risks, you'll probably be fine, right? The problem is there are guys who they'll just be very naive, right? And they go there with this kind of, I guess you would say, conquistador or Western chauvinist mentality. Oh, this woman from a village where there's no contact with the rest of the world, like, I guess Commodore Perry opening up Japan, and she's going to just be all feminine, and she doesn't know, she's not going to be like the women of the West. Let's be real, folks, okay? Let's just be totally real for a second. They have access to the internet in many cases. They are watching Western soap operas. They know what a good-looking Western dude looks like, and they know what a guy who is subpar appears to be. Okay, they're not that naive. And if you think you're going to be standing there and it's kind of like that, I think it was from South Park where she's going to be looking at you going, he's so high, high above me, he's so rubbery. Get that kind of simplistic, extremely condescending mentality out of your mind because it could be detrimental to you. And if you show up looking like one of those dudes, I mean, kind of like this Hawaiian shirt, cargo shorts, very touristy, a guy who doesn't really have high status back home or a sense of social graces, they're not going to be like, oh, this is an alpha. They're going to say beta alert, beta alert, and that's where you end up getting taken advantage of. And they can try to rip you off as far as the currency is concerned. They could just try to get you, oh, this dude has never had a cute girl actually pay attention to him, so he's going to want to put a ring on every finger the first time that he comes across some example. And that's what you have to be careful about. There was some delusional guy in the comments section a month or so ago, and he's going, I'm an alpha male in Southeast Asia, cream cheese dude. And then it comes out that, what he meant by that is that he had money. No, you're not an alpha male, you're an ATM. You're a ticket out. This is where guys get screwed up. There are dudes in Southeast Asia, other countries from the West, who have gotten so taken to really to the woodshed that they are now living in poverty because they were so stupid and oh yeah, I'm an alpha. No, you got to come back down to the real world or you're going to hurt yourself. Consider the fact that if you're over there teaching English and you're not like really hustling, doing extra online classes, building up a big income or starting your own school, you're not exactly at the top of their society economically. And they're going to say, well, we know that all our people, the best and brightest, go to your countries to work on Wall Street, become lawyers and doctors. And you're here playing up the fact that you just happen to be born in a country where people speak English. So that's already something that could potentially, unless the girl has some kind of, I want my kid to be half this, that's already limiting your overall economic status or social status. So you have to consider what kind of women are you going to be attracting. And it's going to depend on the guy because some will be better looking, some will have better social skills. But nevertheless, don't be naive because if you just go for some, she's a working class girl, whatever, nothing wrong with that, you can easily be taken for a ride. And this is why, and this is what I'll advise guys, because it's a difference between if you just want to have fun or you're actually looking to get married, have kids. This is a very important piece of advice that I picked up, and I highly advise that you pay attention if that's the direction you want to go. I met this girl, I remember in Dominican Republic, this was some years ago, and of course, the stereotype of women in these countries, most of them is that, unless they've got money, they're pretty much, I'm looking pretty, I'm going to try to find some foreigner to be my date for a week or so, spend some money on me, or in fact try to marry him and get out of the country. Well, I met this chick that was very different from some of the others in that she was studying at one of the better universities in the country. She had I think she was a manager of a call center, which is a decent job in that economy. It's not like being a bar promoter or just selling fruit at the markets. She also, through TV shows and just her own personal drive, she was pretty much fluent in English. And so that is a sign that this person actually has motivation to better themselves. They're not just sitting there waiting for someone to swoop down and rescue them from the situation. So you think about it kind of like the parable of the talents. It's not a shame. There's nothing wrong with trying and failing, but it's when you just sit there, I can't do anything because of where I started. That is the big mistake. So if you're looking to marry a woman, consider her status in the society. Has she done anything to actually enhance her position, or is she just going to be there waiting for a guy? Because these are the ones, and not in every case, some might actually be just wanting to start a family. Some of them will try to have a kid with you, go to the United States, go to UK, whatever, get residency, then dump you to the curb. Or even if you stay in that country, they might find a way to do it as well. So I'm just saying, there's nothing wrong. It's going to be a good option for a lot of guys to actually leave the country, but you have to know who you are. You have to understand the social dynamics and avoid making the mistake of assuming, oh, yeah, I'm just an alpha here. No, it's economic tables are turned, supply and demand tables are turned. You've got the papers. That is really the centerpiece of it. So just exercise caution, and you'll probably be fine. But if you go there in a naive fashion, if you fall in love with the first one that just smiles at you, it might be an issue.